There were three big things that we saw that I'd never seen before. The first was Amish, okay? The Amish community in Pennsylvania. Second was young people. This was something new because honestly, young people were trending to the right. The third, which blew my mind, I saw numbers like I had never seen before, is Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, Black and Hispanic male voters. We were just seeing numbers off the charts. It's what won him the election. You could say it was Trump gains or you could say it was her loss, but the enthusiasm was not there for her, and Black and Hispanic men loved voting against Kamala Harris.
Last year, we had a bit of a paradigm in front of us, a crossroads. Either we would be electing somebody who was going to continue the same insanity over and over again, or we'd have the opportunity of having somebody who was going to be able to be sane, who's going to be able to put America first. But one of the big pieces in order for us to be able to accomplish that is to be able to win Pennsylvania. And a lot of folks were like, we don't know if this is going to be possible. We don't know if this is something that we're going to be able to achieve or do. But thanks to some hardworking folks like our guest today, Cliff Maloney, we had a Republican win. And so, first of all, thank you for all of your work that you've done, because if we didn't have Pennsylvania, we really wouldn't be here today. And that's huge. And second of all, thank you for being here today.
Appreciate you having me, Isaiah.
So tell us about your role, or tell us about your organization, Citizen Alliance, and you as being a founder with PHAs.
Yeah, so Citizens Alliance, we operate in 4 different states. We're in New Hampshire, Pennsylvania. There are 2 purple states. And then we've got Idaho and North Dakota as our 2 red states. And the mission's pretty simple. We're trying to create a liberty state, right? A state where we can go in, change state policy, and really show that liberty is the way forward. We can enhance the quality of life. Businesses will flock there. People will flock there. And just try to create an example that other states can follow, especially red states, right? A lot of these red states, there's no excuse. They should be liberty bastions. They're not. And so we're focused on trying to create the example of a liberty state and then pressure others to do it. Pretty much we've been focused on that. And then my world got turned upside down in 2024. I got a call from the people over at Turning Point, Charlie Kirk's organization, and they pretty much said, look, these new rules that have been changed during COVID have created a lot of challenges, or if you're optimistic, you can call them opportunities, for people to start doing ballot harvesting and ballot chasing where it's legal. And so out of all the swing states, Charlie and his group, they were targeting Arizona and Wisconsin, and they pretty much called and said, look, how do we make you guys run a program that is dedicated not to registering voters, not to doing door-to-door advocacy, but to specifically go out door-to-door and chase ballots for people that are Trump supporters to make sure that they're Trump voters. And so we launched this program, the PHAs, hired 120 full-time individuals. We're on the ground for over 2 months, and we knocked 510,000 doors to try to fix what we call kind of this mail-in problem where Democrats were running up the score, and we were just kind of sitting around hanging out and saying, hey, only vote on election day. And obviously very happy with the results. It took me from doing just state races to the largest swing state, I'd argue the most important. It was great to be back in my home state and just proud of what we did.
It's a huge accomplishment and so vitally important. Again, thank you for all of you did. 500,000 contacts is huge. And for folks who don't understand the idea of ballot chasing, and I'm not completely sure exactly how Pennsylvania does it, but my understanding is these are people who've requested a ballot and may not have turned it in yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'll give the full rundown. If I get too in the weeds, feel free to pull me back out. So there's 3 types of door knocking, okay? One is if you're knocking in a primary and you're trying to say, hey, listen, Cliff Maloney's a horrible Republican, Isaiah Knight's a patriot, and you're only talking to Republicans, but you're saying, listen, this is the right Republican to vote for. That's the first type. Those are the most difficult doors to knock. Because a lot of doors you knock on, they say, oh, are you a Republican? I'm voting Republican. Well, hold on. There's 2 Republicans on the ballot, right? There's 2 different types. And so that's the most difficult. The second type of door knocking is general election, what I would call swing voters, right? So moderate Republicans or soft Democrats. Maybe you have a Democrat who's registered Democrat, but they're with us on guns or they're with us on some issue, and you try to go talk to them about that issue. And you specifically try to get them excited about that issue so they'll vote for the Republican. those are hard as well, right? They're tough conversations. This was completely different. Okay, what you're doing the third way, which is chasing a ballot at the door, is you're literally going to people that are diehard Republicans. And it's a general election, so all you're trying to do is get them to vote. They're going to vote straight ticket Republican. And you're pretty much saying, listen, the first half of our program, we went to low propensity voters, meaning they're not likely to vote. But if they do vote, they're going to vote Republican. And we said, take this request form, sign it, and we will return it. Because in Pennsylvania, understand the rules. There's 50 days now of mail-in voting. Okay, we do not have early voting, not in the traditional sense. A lot of states, Virginia, a lot of these other states, they're targeting early voting. We don't have that. We have election day, and then we have 50 days of no excuse mail-in voting, but you have to request the ballot. Okay, you don't need a reason, but you do have to request it, and that resets every single year. And so what we did for the first half of our program was take that request form and try to rack up as many of those as we could. The second half, pretty much October 1 through November 5, we're doing what you just said. We are going to the doors of people that if they vote are going to vote Republican and they have a ballot. And we're saying, hey, Mr. Smith, you got a ballot sitting there. Can you turn that in today? I'm going to be back in 7 days if you don't turn it in. Right? And it's a reminder campaign. Okay, Democrats call this the power of annoying the voter. I don't call it that, but we call it a reminder campaign. And you have to understand the history here, okay? Biden won Pennsylvania in 2020 by 80,000 votes. And the reason I officially launched the PA Chase is we did our research, and Christian Hines pulled the number, great patriot, and Christian said, listen, there were 141,000 Republicans who in 2020 requested a ballot, it sat on their dining room table, and they never sent it back. And so that number itself, 140,000 had a ballot that were Republicans that never voted, and we only lost by 80,000. And so I'm happy to say that through our program, we got that number down from 141 to only 62,000, right? And so I look at that, Trump only won the state by 120,000 votes. So when I look at that, I'm pretty excited about the results. But why would they return it, Isaiah? Nobody talked to them in 2020, right? They got all the TV ads. Right. They got the mail, the digital, the radio, but nobody said, hey, I'm here. I know you have a ballot. We want to get them all in. Your vote matters. And I think that's what we now have to do consistently in PA is to make this something where we're always reminding them and we're always getting the low propensity to get a ballot sent to them, which makes them 70% more likely to vote if they have a ballot versus having to go on election day.
That's huge. It's incredible. I recommend people try door knocking if they ever want to get involved in politics. Meet their neighbors and talk to them because it's exactly what you said. You run into people who don't realize there's an election or they don't think that their vote's going to matter. That one bugs me a lot when 2020 in Georgia, you're hearing a lot of people like, well, my vote doesn't matter because of A, B, C, or D. And it's like, no, it does matter. You need to show up and you need to vote. You absolutely have to do that. There's no excuse not to do that. But going there, knocking on doors, and actually just talking to people changes your entire outlook and how you see politics. Because you're so used to being inside your circle. We all tend to do that. You know, we all tend to be within our own cliques and groups, and it's just that's generally how people operate. But going and doing what you say, going and knocking on the door, talking that, I think it changes your whole worldview and perspective. And just the simple thing of saying, hey, can you please remember to do this, just makes a huge shift.
Well, there's two points I'll make to that. One, I agree. I tell anybody who wants to get involved, especially if you want to run for office, right? There's no better coaching. There's nothing you can learn theoretically or in a classroom that's better than going and just talking to normal voters, right? I call them, when we do trainings, we call them Mary Jo beer can. Okay, now I can say that. I come from a blue-collar family outside of Philly, but there's a lot of people in the political class that they don't connect well or they don't understand that most people care about putting food on the table, paying their mortgage, taking their kids to practice, and that's life. You're just trying to get through the basics. And so trying to connect with them, go talk to them. You'll learn quite a lot. Second thing we find out, and people have asked me for years, whether it was my time with Rand Paul, my time at Young Americans for Liberty, my time now with Citizens Alliance, you know, Cliff, why are you always fixated on door knocking? Right. And here's the thing. I mean, I'm a big guy, right? Knocking doors is a pain in the rear end. I'm not excited about it just because I think, you know, it's something to do. I'm excited about it because the left has put out study after study 25 years of peer-reviewed data that shows the most impactful way, if you're trying to do voter contact between TV, radio, digital, mail, texting, and doors, it's doors. It's the doors. And people always like, and I say, look, I'll give you the numbers. 1 out of every 9 conversations that we have at the door, the studies show, leads to a vote you would not have gotten otherwise. So then extrapolate that out. Okay, well, that's conversations. How many doors do I have to knock on to have 9 conversations? Well, on the low end, it's 25%. So that means for every 4 doors I knock, I'm going to have 1 solid conversation. So if you do the math, 9 times 4, I have to knock on 36 doors to add a vote. And when you look at the cost of that, knocking a door can cost anywhere from $3 to $6, depending on where you are, what the housing costs, the price of gas, etc. Right? So I tell people you compare that to what it costs to earn a vote via mail, what it costs to earn a vote via phone calls, you can look at all the numbers, and by far the most cost-effective, the best return on investment is knocking doors. But Isaiah, people ask me all the time, well, why don't other people do it? Well, one, it's hard, right? You're not working with 2 or 3 people in the professional class that are heavily reliable. One cuts a TV ad, one places the ad buy, all 3 of them get their commission and their kickback. In door knocking, it's tough. We had to have 10 Airbnbs. To run this program with 120 people, we had 1,100 people apply. We had to interview nearly 700 people, right? That is time. That is logistics. That is building through all of these pieces step by step. But we've been doing this, right? Through the programs I've run with Justin Grice, we've knocked on 8 million doors. We've hired over 4,500 people. And we're going to continue to do that. I mean, I don't want to say my legacy, but that's my mission, is to build these programs, because as of the data telling me, the most impactful thing to do is knock doors. But it's not easy, and it's not a great gig. People are slamming their door in your face. Some people screaming, get off my lawn. But it's great job security for me, because a lot of people take the easy route, which is let's do the Karl Rove strategy of trying to come up with the perfect TV ad, the perfect message. That's great for election day. That's great for high propensity voters that are going to vote and you're trying to persuade them or encourage them or turn them out. The missing piece is the low propensity voters, they're Trump supporters or they're Liberty supporters. How do you get them to become actual voters? That's where the doors, that's where the chasing has the most impact.
Yeah, that's incredible. It really is. And again, I'll say, I think everybody should try it at least once, to go and knock on doors and to go through that experience, because I do believe it's life-changing. Tell me about anything that you've seen that you were surprised about in this whole entire process in Pennsylvania, right? So you get interviewing all these people, you get all the door knockers to come in and to the community and start getting to work and doing this. Is there anything that happened in that process? Because you've been, like you said, you've been doing this for a long time with door knocking. Anything that happened where you're just this is very different?
Yeah, well, number one, it was the first time I ever chased ballots, right? We've done the primary doors. I've done general election doors. And like I said, this was like taking, candy from a baby. And I don't mean that to disrespect the voters, but, they want to win too. You're just making it easier for them. And it's a reminder campaign. So that was the first lesson. There were 3 big things that we saw that I'd never seen before. The first was Amish, okay? The Amish community in Pennsylvania. Now, look, did we add 50 or 100,000 votes? No, right? There's only, a certain amount of Amish in the state. But what we realized that people weren't tapping into is ask yourself the question, why would somebody that's Amish like to vote by mail? And the answer is because A, they don't have to travel to the polling place, right? Depending on where they are. I mean, they're going to have to go by horse and buggy, right? It's a difficult, it's not as simple as hopping in a car and driving 5 minutes down the road. That was the first one. The second one was they didn't have to use the technology, right? It's paper ballots. You're just mailing it in. There's no tech involved. There's no, breaking any of their rule to have to do this. And so Amish, it's like 99.5 to 0.5 voting Republican, right? It's the most net positive you're going to have of any community, of any ideology, of anything. It was strong. So that was something that we targeted. We doubled down on. We did a lot of doors in the Amish community to get them the request. and then to chase their ballots. And the best part is there might be 30 people registered at the same address, right? And so that was great. So the first big lesson was the Amish community. The second was young people. Okay, now there's kind of a benefit to this because, this was something new because honestly, young people are trending to the right? So this used to be a demographic that for a while Republicans didn't want to turn out because a lot of times it was a net negative. Anybody under the age of 30 up until this cycle, you're kind of probably doing a lot of work and spinning wheels and not gaining as many votes as you'd like to. We would have plenty of parents at the door who would say, hey, my daughter's at college. My son, he works out of town, but can they request a ballot? And we kept seeing this. So we actually added a lot of these young people. If they were in Republican-only households, even if they weren't on our target list, we would add them in because then we would encourage the parents to get them to request it. Now, to be clear and to be compliant, for any attorneys watching, of course, we did not encourage the parent to fill out the request form or fill out the ballot and send it back. That has to be the legal voter, the person registered, the person the ballot is sent to. But there was a lot of people out there that were utilizing this vote by mail because their 18 to 25-year-old wasn't home regularly, right? But they're registered there, they're a legal resident there. And so that was the second thing we tapped into. The third, which blew my mind, I saw numbers like I had never seen before, is Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, Black and Hispanic male voters. I don't know if it's because they like Donald Trump or they hate Kamala Harris. I think it's the latter. But the feedback we got, now once again, we're not targeting Democrats, okay? But we were targeting anybody that could be modeled as a Trump supporter. So independents, obviously Republicans, people that don't declare a party, third party, but Black and Hispanic men. When we saw the numbers on the returns on our daily report, probably a week in, I said there had to be an error because our people at the door, remember, when they go door to door, it's all targeted and they're tracking after they leave, they're putting down different intel and different data based on the conversation. Are they super pro-Trump? Are they definitely going to vote? By what method? Did they commit to voting by mail? Had they already requested a ballot or had they not? That type of thing. And the numbers that we saw, the numbers for Black men and Hispanic men supporting Trump, it was so strong that I actually doubled the amount of Black and Hispanic PA Chase team members that were going to the door because we saw the number of that connection of people talking to people that they identify with. We were just seeing numbers off the charts. And if you look, the gains in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia for Trump 2020 versus 24, and even comparing to 16, it's what won him the election because it's such a dense population boost. You could say it was Trump gains or you could say it was her loss, but the enthusiasm was not there for her, and Black and Hispanic men loved voting against Kamala Harris.
Fantastic work on that. So if, say, someone wants to get involved and they want to help make a difference this year and the following years for the upcoming elections, what would you recommend someone to do?
So my number one rule for an activist, if you believe in principle, right? If you're getting in this because you have policy positions and a set of beliefs that you want to advance in politics, because not everybody gets in it for that reason, right? I'd say a lot more people than you think are just like, hey, I could have a job in politics. Or, when I was growing up, my dad was friends with the local state rep and I thought that was awesome. And, he gets to be called the honorable. If you're in it for those reasons, I don't have any advice for you. If you're in it for because you believe in something, the first thing I would tell you is do not waste your time building parties. Okay. And I don't mean just, third parties, duopoly, whatever you want to call it. Yes, I'm a Republican. Yes, I work for and against Republicans, against the bad ones. But I tell people, if you spend all your time building party or trying to build the party, you're not going to always like what the result is. But if you pick a candidate or a cause to really rally around, you can build the party that person's a part of, right? Take Nick Freitas in Virginia. Nick's work as a delegate, the people that Nick has brought to the Republican Party is not because he's out there saying, hey, be a Republican, but they believe in Nick. And that leads to them wanting to get involved. So I always tell people, find a politician, not that you want to praise or that you want to, kind of give them or put them on a pedestal, but find a politician that aligns with your core beliefs. And if you want to donate your time or your money, spend your time and money helping that person build, because that's going to kind of create an infrastructure around those ideas. Us, what we're doing, we're doubling down the PHAs. So we can't take a year off and give up all the gains because it resets every year. And Democrats have 105 full-time people in the field right now. So what we've declared is that we are going to knock another 500,000 doors in November. Well, this 2025. So summer through November 4th, I believe, is election day this year. And we're going to be hitting a lot of school board races, judge of elections races, anything that's competitive. But what we're trying to do is create behavioral patterns to get Republicans that are low propensity very comfortable and familiar with voting by mail. Because if they don't vote by mail, they're not going to vote. And let me say this, Isaiah, for anybody out there, I vote on election day. That's fine. I'm not talking about you, right? The people that are going to consistently vote on election day, if I move all the election day voters to vote by mail, that's not a positive at all, right? That's the same amount of votes. Keep the election day voters voting on election day, but get all of these low propensities that aren't going to vote on election day a ballot, and they'll be much more likely to vote. So we're doubling down on PA in 2025. And my stated objective is I want to make PA the red wall so that Democrats make it pretty much impossible to win a national election for the Team Blue. And if we do that, by doing these chase programs, I think people are going to replicate it across the country.
I absolutely love it. I will definitely get your information in with the show notes here so folks can, reach out if they have any questions to get involved. And I really do appreciate your time. And again, everything that you've done. I mean, it's incredible, not just because I've known you and about you for a long time. I mean, what you've done over the years has been incredible and making Liberty win. And thank you for what you've done in Pennsylvania, because I couldn't imagine what our country would be like if we ended up with Harris for 4 years. It would have been awful. So thank you again for all of your help and sharing some time here today.
You got it. And let me end with this. Look, the first step is winning, and then you expose all the rot, the corruption, the fraud, waste, and abuse, right? And I think Elon's done a great job at that. But now comes the real battle with the swamp, which is, okay, we've exposed it. Now, how do we defund it, right? How do we abolish some of these departments? How do we abolish some of these regulations, abolish some of these taxes, to get government actually limited? So that is the big thing now. I tell people, don't sit back, right? Hold your elected officials accountable, especially the Republicans that run on fiscal conservatism every year. Now's the time to double down. Folks want to find me on X, they can at Maloney. It's real simple, Maloney, and phchase.com if you want to support us. Sponsoring a ballot chaser is $175, covers a full day, and all that money goes towards their pay, their housing, their gas cards. And Isaiah, I just want to say thank you. You got a great platform here, your show, and I think, you've always been one of those principled guys that's in the fight for the right reason. I know a lot of people that get in the fight for that reason, but they don't stay there. So just always appreciate you giving me a platform and just spreading the message of liberty.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much.